Welcome back to Sky Sports News. Let's get some more reaction then to the huge breaking story tonight that Arsenal have had their third offer for West Ham's Declan Rice accepted. It's a £100 million deal plus an extra £5 million in add-ons. Not just that, but Kai Havertz has also completed his move from Chelsea to Arsenal as well. Let's speak to a Gunners fan then and broadcaster. Harry Symeou joins us live now. Harry, thank you for joining us. In terms of this deal then for Declan Rice, it's a huge deal for Arsenal to get over the line, especially considering the competition for his signature. What's your overwhelming feeling tonight?
Yeah, it's massive. It's a big statement from Arsenal Football Club of, the fact that, they progressed so much last season, but they're not going to sit and rest on their laurels. They are ready to push on to that next level. And I think you need to give the club a lot of credit here. You need to give the ownership credit for allowing Arsenal to go that far in terms of what they were able to pay and willing to pay to get the Declan Rice deal over the line. I know some people out there will say that the price is excessive, but Mikel Arteta's clearly identified him as a target and someone that can take the team up to a new level, and he's willing to go all out to get it done. And the ownership have had to back him in that, and they have. I think you need to give Edu credit for being that middleman, of course, between Mikel Arteta and, of course, the ownership and helping him to get what he wants out of them, of course. And you have to give Mikel Arteta lots of praise for convincing the player as well. We've heard lots of stories about how Mikel Arteta has spoken to Declan Rice, how conversations have taken place, and that it's Mikel Arteta's vision for him that's made Arsenal his preference all along here. It's been widely reported throughout this mini transfer saga, if you want to call it that, that one of the key factors here was Declan Rice's desire to come to Arsenal. And I think even when Manchester City came in, Declan Rice's desire to move to Arsenal didn't seem to waver. And obviously Arsenal have taken advantage of that and moved forward and finally got to a point where a fee has been agreed.
A fee agreed, as you say. I mean, it's a big deal, isn't it? I mean, smashes Arsenal's previous transfer record of £72 million for Nicolas Pepe back in 2019. What gives you confidence this will prove to be a great deal for Arsenal and take you to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be confident in the business that Arsenal do nowadays, because over recent seasons, Mikel Arteta and Edu, sort of as a combination, as a partnership, have got way more right than they've got wrong. And it's taken Arsenal to a point where they were far more competitive last season. You go back to that summer, you look at the acquisitions of Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus and sort of William Saliba coming back into the side, and you look at how much that closed the gap. And then you see Arsenal going out in the following summer and putting down big amounts of money on players that they've been looking at for a long time. They're clearly convinced by internally. And you have to believe that that's going to help Arsenal go on to another level. Arsenal have Champions League football next season, which is obviously something that they've been longing for a long, long time. And one of my big concerns going into this summer was, would we be able to build a squad strong enough to be able to cope with the demands of playing both in Europe's premier competition, but also trying to keep up the levels that Arsenal showed in the Premier League last season, being there or thereabouts at the top of the table. And I have huge confidence that the signing of Declan Rice is going to help Arsenal. I've got huge confidence in the deal involving Kai Havertz as well, which Arsenal have, of course, announced this evening. And when you look at some of the other players the club are being linked with, you can't help but feel that Arsenal are on a path to greater success, and that these signings are going to be a crucial part of that.
Harry, do you think Declan Rice is worth a deal rising to £105 million?
It's difficult to say, because I think, just generally speaking, the prices when it comes to big money transfers have gone crazy. I would say that, in my personal opinion, that I probably would have been a little bit more comfortable with Arsenal doing this deal at slightly less. But ultimately, this is what it took to get it over the line. And, sometimes you have to go that extra mile to get a player like Declan Rice out of his club, because, to West Ham, he was everything. He was huge. The captain, he took them on to winning the Europa Conference League, a massive influence in and around the place. And they're going to need to replace him as well. So you can understand why there is a premium. The Premier League as a league, I think, is so much stronger financially than every other league in the world, that when you get transfers between Premier League clubs, you have to always expect there to be an extra premium on top. Add that we're London rivals as well, and the fact that Declan Rice is so sought after, and it always felt like it was going to get to this point. Would I say in isolation that Declan Rice is worth £105 million? Maybe not, but that's what it's taken to do this deal.
Harry, let's focus on his playing abilities just for a moment, because when you watch Arsenal, as I'm sure you do, on a very regular basis, when you saw them last season and you see potentially next season with Declan Rice in your team, what are the attributes that he has that makes you think, I'm really excited about this?
I think, first of all, his physical presence is a big thing. I think towards the back end of last season, you just started to see Arsenal's sort of physical presence in midfield wane a little bit. When Thomas Partey's form dropped off, I think Arsenal really looked vulnerable in midfield in the physical sense. I think that in terms of controlling the play, they were able to do that with Jorginho and Odegaard and Granit Xhaka being in there as well. But without having sort of Thomas Partey in prime form, I think Arsenal suffered a little bit physically. So I think that's the first thing. I think Declan Rice is able to play in a couple of midfield positions as well, which is another big appeal here. He can play as the defensive number 6, but I think Mikel Arteta wouldn't be afraid to use him in a slightly more advanced position as an 8 at times as well, because he has shown that he can be box to box, and he has shown, I think, in the last year or so that he can be effective in the final third as well. So I think that's the big appeal with Declan Rice, but it's physicality, it's leadership. You look at what Mikel Arteta managed to do with Granit Xhaka in terms of how he improved him in the sense of progressing the ball and getting into more attacking positions just on the training pitch. If he can do that with Declan Rice, who has so many of the raw attributes to be a really good attacking force, but also is so sound defensively, then I think he's going to turn him into a great player.
Harry, while we've got you, we need to talk about the signing of Kai Havertz as well. That's been confirmed by Arsenal. In the statement on the club's website, Mikel Arteta refers to his versatility in midfield as well. How do you see him fitting into this jigsaw? It's very exciting for Arsenal fans, as we've been saying.
Yeah, it is. And I think that line about the midfield was put into that statement that Arsenal put out deliberately, because there has been a lot of speculation with regards to where Kai Havertz fits into the picture. And again, I talk about versatility. I think that's something that Arsenal are really, really looking for at the moment. To Mikel Arteta, it's not about having a massive squad in terms of numbers, but it's about having an adaptable squad. I think he's made that clear on numerous occasions. And with Kai Havertz, I think the primary idea now will be to play him in a sort of creative midfield position, maybe in the position that Granit Xhaka took up last season, where he spent a lot of time getting forward, becoming a part of the front 5 when Arsenal were in possession. But the good thing about Havertz is that you could play him on the right if you needed to give Saka a breather. You could put Jesus out on the right and put Havertz through the middle. If you wanted to do that, you could play Havertz from the left. He could replace Martin Odegaard in the event that he's unavailable. And again, it just all plays into this rotation and Arsenal's ability or the need for Arsenal to be able to cope playing and competing on multiple fronts. And Kai Havertz is another really exciting piece of the jigsaw.
So Kai Havertz done, Harry. Declan Rice edging ever closer. Do you sense this is Arsenal getting their business done early, or do you think there'll be quite a few more comings and goings at the Emirates before the window closes?
I expect there to be at least one more. I think from what we're hearing, the talks with Ajax over Yuri and Timber are progressing really well. So I expect him to come in through the door as well before the window's over. In terms of too many more, I don't think you'll see too many more just because of the level of investment that Arsenal are making. Maybe if they're able to sell a couple of players and bring in some funds that way, you might see them dip back into the market a little bit later on in the window. But I think that'll probably be it for now. 3 big money signings, assuming that they get closer with the Timber one as well. And I think that's fine. I think at this point you want to add quality rather than quantity necessarily. I think in years gone by, Arsenal have panicked and looked at the numbers of the squad and thought we need to go and get 5 or 6 in, and not all of them have worked out. There's always a risk when you make multiple signings that some of them are not going to hit the ground running. So I think Arsenal should be looking at 3-4 players of a really high calibre, and that's what I expect to see.
Harry, great to talk to you tonight. Thanks very much for joining us live on Sky Sports News.
Thank you so much for having me.